Hare Ram, Ram Ram. All right. So, Hare Krishna, we welcome everyone for today's Bhagavat Live program, wherein we are on the third canto now. We are on the 14th chapter, and a very, very interesting and an important discussion, which could largely be misunderstood in its content and intent. So, we'll offer prayers together, and then we'll take a look at this chapter, which has around 51 verses, and it is talking about the reason for the birth of, or the cause of the birth of demoniac sons of Diti, Hiranyakashipu. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatadeshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gotase Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patidanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusate Devi Pranamami Haripi Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Welcome once again. This is a very, very important chapter for a sadhaka, and it talks about one of the greatest and the common pitfall, or I could say a mistake that we make it. And as a subject matter comes, we'll also talk about human psychology here, focusing more on male psychology as well as female psychology as the subject matter builds up. All right, let's begin with it. I don't want to just tell you the whole summary of this chapter. We'll go with the verse a little bit. Otherwise, the fun goes away. Chapter 14, titled as Pregnancy of Diti in the Evening. I'll recite few verses and then we'll read the translation purport. Shri Shukavacha Nishamaya Kausharavino Pavarnitam Harahe Katha Karana Shukratmanaha Puna Saprapacha Tam Udyantanjayele Nacha Tatrapto Viduro Dhratvrataha. Translation. Sukdev Goswami said, after hearing from the great sage Maitreya about the Lord's incarnation as Varaha, that was the subject matter, rescuing the earth from the Garbhodak ocean. Swayambhuva Manu was given the service profile and he was designated earth to begin his seva. And Swayambhuva asked, well, the earth is not there. And it is, Swayambhuva Manu represents first Manvantara. So it's just the beginning of the day of Brahma. And in the night, the destruction had happened. So that's the whole story that is going forward. So Vidurji, at that point of time, Maitreya Muni was speaking, briefly he intermingled two stories of Varaha's incarnation in two different Manvantara, the first and the sixth Manvantara. So Vidurji became excited. I said, hey, why did Varahadev kill Hiranyaksha? Who was Hiranyaksha? I'm very eager to know. That's what the subject matter. That's how the whole story begins. So Sukdev Goswami says, after hearing from the great sage Maitreya about the Lord's incarnation as Vara, Vidura, who had taken a vow, begged him with folded hands to please narrate further transcendental activities of the Lord. Since Vidura did not yet feel satisfied. It's very interesting. ये ही संस्पर्श जा भोगा. Well, that's not the right verse. Dukha yoni ayavati. Not that. That's not the right verse. In the third chapter, the nature of the lust is described. One which is never satisfied. It always burns like fire. Third chapter, verse number 39. It talks about lust or kama is something which is never satisfied, and it always burns like fire. Here, Vidurji's heart is not satisfied. It is said, did not feel yet satisfied. If you look at the last line of the verse, na cha trapto vidura dhritavataha ati trapto. Vidurji was not still satisfied. Now, even devotees are not satisfied. What is the point of it? There's a huge difference. It's like upside down. So devotees are not satisfied hearing enough about Krishna and Krishna's devotee. When it says it is not satisfied, does not mean they are frustrated, like karmis. You getting it? So those who want to fulfill their lustful propensities, while fulfilling, they are frustrated, before they are frustrated, after they are frustrated. So this dissatisfaction or not satisfied is the hankering for more. It does not mean they are frustrated. So not satisfied. And Vidurji asked, what did Vidurji said? Teneva tu mani shreshta harina yagnamurtina adidetyo hiranyaksho hata iti anushushuma. Anushushuma, I'm very eager to hear. Adidetyo hiranyaksho. So Hiranyaksha, one of the initial Daityas, Harina Yagnamurtina, how was he killed? O chief amongst the great sages, I have heard by a disciplic succession, Hiranyaksha, the original demon, was slain by the same form of sacrifices, the personality of Godhead. Like this has been described. Prabhupada in the puppet makes the same point about, first Manvantara and the sixth Manvantara. Text number 3. Vidurya. तस्य चोद्रतः शौणिं स्वादंस्त्राग्रेण लीलया दैत्यराजस्य च ब्रह्मन् कस्माद्धेतुरभुन्मदः. Why was there a fight between Hiranyaksha and Varadev? What was the reason, O Brahman, Maitreya Muni, for the fight between the demon king Hiranyaksha and Varadev? Shraddhadhanaya bhaktaya bruhita janma vistaram rashena trapyati manaha param kautahalam ime. He says again, hey Rishi Muni or Munivar, na trapyati mana, mera man abhi bhi shant nahi hua hai. My mind is not satisfied. Param, I am very much, Param refers to transcendental actually. Param is very much kauthalam. I'm very much eager to know what happened. Please tell me. Be kind. My mind has become very inquisitive, and therefore I'm not satisfied with hearing the narration of the Lord's appearance. Please, therefore, speak more and more to a devotee who is a faithful. So many times people ask, what are the symptoms? Am I making progress? One of the symptoms is how inquisitive and curious you are about to learn about the Lord and Lord's devotees. How much relish, how much nectar, and how much inquisitive are you in learning about. And just to remind you, it is not that Vidurji doesn't know the story of Hiranyaksha. So don't tell Prabhuji he was excited because he was hearing for the first time. हम भी शुरू में बहुत उत्साहित थे, परंतु बार-बार सुनते-सुनते बोर हो गए. So that is not the case. Do you think Vidurji, who was a great advisor for Dhritarashtra, the great visionary who at a very advanced age left Hastinapur, that great Vidurji would not know all this? I mean, there was no CBSE, ICSE atheistic schools those days. Everyone went to Gurukul, right? So Vidurji would have heard everything. So please don't consider his Kautahalam or his eagerness is because for the first time. Prabhuji, I am also a very great devotee because I am also inquisitive, because I am learning. Your eagerness and greatness will be tested when you have learned, heard everything. How much you are eager to hear it and read it again and again and again. Many times people say, Prabhuji, dham, ghum aaye, Prabhuji, Bhagavad Gita pad li, abhi kya avashyakta hai? Now, the good part is, Even for those, Krishna has given abundant of holy places and abundant of scriptures. If you think you're done with Bhagavad Gita, then read the commentary, Vishwanath Chakravarti. You're done with it, Baldev Vidyabhushan. You're done with it, don't worry. पहले उतना पढ़ो फिर बताएंगे आगे क्या है. Okay, there is no scarcity of that. Text number 5, Maitrevacha. So like this, Vidurji expresses his expresses his desire. He pleads, please, Maitreya Muni, do not stop speaking, continue speaking. And Maitreya Muni once again glorifies Vidurji's inquiry. The great sage Maitreya said, "O warrior, the inquiry made by you is just befitting a devotee because it concerns the incarnations of the personality of Godhead. He is the source of liberation from the chain of birth and death for all those who are otherwise destined to die." Question could be raised. Well, एक बार सुन लिया ना, जानते हैं ना हिरण्यकशिपु killed, Varadev killed Hiranyaksha. What could be the possible reason for Vidurji's excitement? One, when you get to hear from different devotees, realized devotees, senior devotees particularly, then they don't just narrate the past time, their realization also flows. Their realization not only flows, their faith also flows. And that is what gives us faith. That is one thing which makes the same pastime more sweeter. Because every devotee, I'm talking about again the advanced devotees, senior devotees, every mature devotee would have their own realization and the faith which carries the weightage in that pastime like that. And at the end of the day, what is that famous shloka from Bhagavad Gita? 10.9. What is that? The devotees.
Chittamat prana bodhayanta prasparam.
What's the first word?
Machittamat gata prana.
Machittaha madgata pranaha bodhayanta. So that's what is happening right now. Bodhayanta parasparam. Kathyantas chamam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Text number 5. That was the thing. Okay. So Prabhupada talks about the glories of the topics about the Lord. How, Prabhupada says there are many topics of mundane warfare, but a devotee is not inclined to hear them. The topics of the warfare in which the Lord engages do not concern the war of death, but the war against the chain of Maya, like this. Text number 6. By hearing these topics from the sage, the son of King Uttanapad was enlightened. Oh, yeah. So now, Maitreya Muni gives an example. What a fantastic inquiry you have made. Let me tell you an example. Hearing the narrations on the subject matter, what you have asked, many in the past have have attained moksha. Not only moksha, have attained prema. And here Maitreya Muni quotes an example of Dhruva Maharaj. By hearing the topics from Narad Muni, the son of King Uttanapad, Dhruva was enlightened regarding the personality of Godhead. And he ascended to the abode of the Lord, placing his feet over the head of death. Krishna Chakravarti Thakur writes, when the plane Vaikuntha airline came there, descended on the Badrinath or Badrika ashram, then Dhruva Maharaj was looking at how do I climb up? What should be the staircase? And he saw the death personified standing there with the folded hands. To set a lesson, to leave a mark, he decided to put his feet on the head of death personified, which indicates that he went back home in the same body. That was a perfection attained with the Dhruva. He didn't even have to change his body. His body had become entirely spiritualized. Text number 7. The history of the fight between the Lord as a bow and the demon Hiranyaksha was heard by me in a year long ago, as it was described with the foremost of the demigods Brahma, and it was questioned by other demigods. So one another interesting thing you will see here, giving credits. No sage, any sage, whenever they speak, they say, we heard from such and such personality in such and such situation. So here Maitreya Muni says, well, I heard it about the story from Brahma himself. Text number 8. Now the story begins. So before we get into the story, let me give a little disclaimer here. When you're going to look at this story, of course, the subject matter is such, and we have a mixed audience, so I would not be able to really take on to a lot of discussion on the storyline. So I thought maybe I'll just speak briefly before we get into the storyline. based on your perceptions, so based on our understanding, we will evaluate the situation that is being described. But it is far more deeper issue than what it may appear as to us. It is not, well, let me pause. Let's read and let's see what you think about it. I'm not going to ask you again, but I will let you self-analyze your thinking, what you contemplate. So let's begin with the story. Text 8. The story begins with Diti, daughter of Daksha. He had in his first birth, he had 16 daughters, which we're going to read in the 4th canto. And Daksha was married to one of the daughters of Swayambhuva, Manu. And through that, Daksha had 16 daughters. The first 13 daughters were given in marriage to Kashyapa Muni, who was the son of Marichi. And the 16th daughter was Sati, which means Sati was the sister of Diti. And Diti got married to Kashyapa, Diti, Aditi, and many others. And Sati got married to Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva becomes, Lord Shiva is in what relationship to Diti now? Brother-in-law. Jijaji, Jiju. All right. So just helping you understand what's the relationship here. That's the story begins with. And it is said, Diti, Dr. Daksha, being afflicted by sex desire, begged her husband Kashyapa, the son of Marichi, to have intercourse with her in the evening in order to beget a child. So why did Varahadev kill Hiranyaksha? To explain that, Maitri Muni goes a little in the background about how Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu was born. What were their actions? And then we'll come to the story of why they were killed. Like that's the background. If you go back into the first canto also, something like that happens. Question was asked about Parishit Maharaj. Why did he renounce? And how did Sukdev Goswami met Parishit Maharaj? And where did Sukdev Goswami narrated the story? From the birth of Parishit Maharaj, from the 18th evening. That's how the 7th chapter of first canto begins. Text 9. The sun was setting, which means it was a twilight time, which is generally the time for Gayatri or Sandhya that we call it. In our time frame, it's somewhere around 7 o'clock, like this. The sun was setting, and the sage was sitting in trance after offering oblations to the Supreme Personality Godhead, whose tongue is the sacrificial fire. So Kashyapa Muni had just performed his evening prayers, Sandhya Vandan, and now he's sitting there right next to the fire oblations, and he's in trance, absorbed. And there comes Diti, text number 10. And Diti began to speak. Ditirvacha eshamantvate vidvan kama ata sharashanah dunoti dina vikramya rambhamiva matangajaha. In that place, the beautiful Diti expressed her desire. And she said, Vidwan, O learned one, Cupid is taking his arrows and distressing me forcibly as a mad elephant troubles a banana tree. So what happens here? Vishwanath Chakri Thakur and Prabhupada goes the same thing. When Diti came there, she wanted to attract the mind of Kashyapa Muni. But finding Kashyapa Muni in trance, she did not behave as would womanly gestures would be. Rather, she began to speak to break the trance of Kashyapa Muni. And she was frank enough. Prabhupada, she frankly said that whole body, or in other words, she is distressed by sex desire because of her husband's presence, just as a banana tree is troubled by a mad elephant. Prabhupada said it was not natural for her to agitate her husband when he was in trance, but she could not control herself. And like that, it is being described here. Okay, let's take a look at it. Text number 11. Tadbhavandayamānāyām sāpatīnām smradhibhi prajavatīnām bhadram te mai ayunktam anugraham. Therefore, she said, you should be kind towards me by showing me complete mercy. I desire to have sons, and I am much distressed by seeing the opulence of my co-wives. By performing this act, you will become happy. Hare Krishna. So, what is happening here? Can you imagine? We are talking about this is back in the history. Maybe you can call it a Satya Yuga or something. How changed, how cultured people were in those days, isn't it? Now, what to speak of Diti, daughter of Daksha, married to the daughter of Swayambhuva Manu, which means she is a great granddaughter of Brahma. What kind of education, cultural upbringing she would have had? How can she act so shamelessly? Approaching a husband, of course, husband-wife relation is fine, but still approaching a husband, it seems to be little reckless. And Prabhu says, she frankly said, but there was no shyness about it, and she said, confess that I am agitated and I would like to have union with you. How is this possible? What are your thoughts? When you give your thoughts, give us Shastric thoughts. How can such a highly cultured and a great granddaughter of Brahmaji is Satya Yuga? There were no billboards agitating your mind. There were no movies to agitate your mind. There was no soap opera to agitate your mind. It was pure environment, purity all around. So how can this happen? Where did he come and ask so bluntly to her husband? And that too, knowing very well. Do you think Diti was less educated? Diti knew this was not the time. On top of it, Diti knew he's in trance. Kashyapa Muni was disturbed out of his trance. And he was kind of brought back to external consciousness. And then she said, this is what I want. All right, Mother Madhavni, your hand is up. What would you like to say?
Hey Krishna, Prabhu, I was just thinking in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsam Sangateshu Pajayate, Sangat Sanjayate Kamah, Kamah Krodot Vijayate. So I was just thinking that because she had the desire to have children, and when she saw her husband, she thought, this was the right time to get her desire fulfilled. And then, the more she contemplated on that desire, then she lost all her intelligence. And then, she approached, although she was well aware of the time and whether it was the right time and all that. Hare Krishna.
Sangat Sanjayate Kamah. So what gets highlighted from here to this pastime is, one is the nature of mind. The second is nature of attachment. So Dhyayatu Vishyan Pumsa. First of all, let's go back to 6th chapter. Chanchalami Mana Krishna Pramati Vallava Dhradam. Tasyam Nigrah Mane Vayurivasu Dushkaramam. So here the three qualities of mind is described: chanchal, flickering, obstinate, and what you can say, reckless. Which means dhradam, when it decides something to do, it becomes entirely shameless and it is willing to break all the walls of etiquettes. So that is a symptom of attachment. And how does attachment develops? Attachment comes from dhyayato vishayan pumsa sangaste supajayate. So what was Diti's contemplation and what was Diti's association? Sangaste supajayate, right? So Diti is living in the ashram with Kashyapa Muni, wherein it appears from this whole storyline, other sisters of Diti had already had child or sons. And she had been contemplating regularly, my Aditi, my sister has this, have everyone have, only I am the barren woman. Only I am the one who does not have a child. And like this, contemplating on this, Sangat Sanjayate Kamah, she becomes extremely maddened. This is called as attachment. Now, was she wrong approaching Kashyapa Muni, or was the act performed wrong? Not at all. Why? Because Kashyapa Muni is a great sage. The act or the desire with which Diti approached Kashyapa Muni was not for enjoyment. It was not for the sake. It is exactly fulfilling the definition as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, as the sex which is performed according to religion is I, as Krishna says. Similarly, it was performed for that purpose. The idea was procreation, to have a son, and which is needed to continue on to the lineage. It was totally right, bona fide. Everything was religious around about that. But because of attachment, she lost her the ability to think. And here comes a very important subject matter. When you are carried away, when you are often carried away by emotions, you're highly susceptible to become attached. I repeat again, if you have a strong emotional personality, you're highly susceptible to become easily attached to your own ideas. And attachment is the most dangerous thing. Vita, raga, bhaya, krodha. What is raga? Attachment. Give up attachment. How should we function in this world? We function on the platform of duty. What is right? What is wrong? Not on the platform of attachment. The platform of attachment means I want it. The platform of attachment is possession, possessiveness. I want to have it. And when that sense becomes very strong, then a person cannot think. That is why Krishna in Bhagavad Gita says Shudra Stri, that particular shloka, 33rd or 32nd verse of 9th chapter. Why Krishna says for even the less intelligent people, if they take to my bhakti, they can attain. And the question is that, oh, why does that woman is less intelligent? I often describe in that scenario also. The only reason is because of their strong emotional nature, which is also a benediction if it is properly guided. But when it is not properly guided, that strong emotional nature results into attachment, and attachment results into frustration or loss of intelligence. If they decide something, it has to happen like that only. This is the way it has to function. And that is what happened with Diti. Now here, Kashyapa Muni is also criticized. Kashyapa Muni, we can see, is in relationship of a guru. Traditionally, husband would act as a guru for a wife. Now, Diti approaches Kashyapa Muni. She spoke. Kashyapa's trance broke. And he's listening to what Diti is saying. And rather than course correcting Diti and telling her what is the right thing, he said, Diti, this is not the good time. I do understand this is my duty to fulfill your desire. He kind of just saying, well, I'm also okay, but right, according to dharma, it will not be right. So why don't you understand? We should not do it. Okay, I'm okay, but it's fine. So here it represents the weakness as the sign of Kashyapa. We'll take a look at the Sanskrit where it said, oh Vidura, you are a man of great vow, whereas Kashyapa was not. He lost his balance of mind also, wherein he agreed. What was expected from Kashyapa Muni? Again, I said guru-disciple relationship. It often happens, when you're serving closely because of relationship, a disciple will also come, a student will also come and tell, we can do this way, that way, all the suggestion comes, which are okay, fine, this is totally fine. But the problem comes when the individual becomes attached to that choice. And how do we course correct? There's only one way to course correct. Reasoning does not help when you're already attached, because mind will not gonna. There is only one thing that helps, that is a strong chastisement. Your shackles of attachment cannot loosen unless a chastisement is given. And that chastisement has to be little blunt. I'm not saying harsh, but little blunt and straightforward in a way that that person is little bit emotionally shaken up. Otherwise, the individual will go on justifying why it should happen. And then it's a matter of time with the tears will start rolling down the eyes. And then the story goes on. We all are familiar with this, right? Okay, mother is smiling. So that's what happened actually, and this is what has happened. So this is how should have happened, but it hasn't happened. So therefore, even in a teacher-student relationship, a teacher at no cost, at no point in time, should get carried away by the whims of the student, how much it seems to be appropriate. Again, Diti's request was not unjust. It was totally bona fide. It was according to Dharma. She was not asking for any wrong activity. It was totally right. But the occasion was not right. And that is why it is. So we have to be strong enough to be able to rise above this ichha and dvesh which arises because of association in this world. All right, that's the main thing.
Krishna Prabhu.
And that's the reason you might find at times, you would see whenever you're attached to some idea, and when it is said no, how hurting it is. Oh, why it is like this? Why it has to be like this, and all that? Well, unless you give attachment, you will undergo the painful experience. Why? Because it is you who are holding the attachment, not attachment holding to you. And what you've been asked is to give up that attachment of the idea. So, in general, we can propose. So, man proposes, God disposes. We can propose, but we cannot demand. And here, Diti is demanding. And Kashyapa should have out, nothing doing. He should have taken a strong action. He didn't take a strong action. And he had the right to take a strong action because she was his wife. And traditionally, the relationship then becomes of a guru-disciple. So there he should have taken that course, which he didn't do. That is what is being mentioned here. So let's take a look ahead what happens. Text number 11.
Oh, I have a related query, Prabhu.
Yeah, we'll discuss the subject matter. Time permits, we'll take a query. Fine. Text number 12. A woman is honored in the world by the benediction of her husband, and a husband like you will become famous. So now she begins to give reasoning. And a husband like you will become famous by having children because you're meant for the expansion of living entities. Text number 13. In days long ago, our father, the most opulent Daksha, who was affectionate to his daughters, asked each of us separately whom we would prefer to select us as a husband. You see now, watch carefully. She's trying to make Kashyapa emotional. And what she's saying, don't you know, even before you appeared to us, a proposal came to us to accept you as husband. I already selected you as my husband. Among all my sisters, I was the first one who selected you as husband, and I'm the last one who have not got the child. So here comes that, a little emotional thing, and she is right. We're not denying that, but this is a way to get the idea. Please, like this. Text number 14. Our well-wishing father Daksha, after knowing our intentions, handed over 13 of his daughters unto you. And since then, we all have been faithful. Like this. Okay, there's a relationship formula that I have written. I'll discuss that later on. Fine, text number 15. Oh, lotus-eyed one, kindly bless me by fulfilling my desire. Chanakya Pandit said, never trust two people. Woman and a politician. I'm just quoting. I'm just quoting. So, oh lotus-eyed one, kindly bless me by fulfilling my desire. When someone in distress approaches a great person, his plea should not never win win. So, what it means by that? Mother Diti has her agenda to be fulfilled, and therefore she is kind of using all her might, emotional might, to make her request as much as appealing as could possibly be, like this. And this holds true in a teacher-student relationship also. It's not an issue of a gender here. It's not to be considered a nature of a woman only, but it's a nature of all of us at large. When we want to get our things done, that's how we approach. We justify like this. Prabhupada, Diti knew well that her request might be rejected. She knew, which means she knew that the time is not appropriate, because of untimely situation, but she pleaded when there is an emergency or a distressful condition, there is no consideration of time or situation. Text number 16. Now, how did Maitremuni call Vidura? Let's take a look at Sanskrit. Ititam vira marichaha kripana bahubhashinim Pratyahanunayan vacha pravadhananga kashmalam ititam viraha. Hearing like this, oh hero, Vidura, you are a hero. You know, Marichaha, the son of Marichi, Kripanam, Bahubhashinam, being thus afflicted by the contamination. So Kripanam, the son of Maricha, Matlab Kashyapa Muni has been addressed as, Kripanam. You can say poor or miser, whatever. He got afflicted. He said, O hero Vidura, Diti, being thus afflicted by the contamination lust and therefore poor and talkative, was Kripanam Bahu Bhashinam. She was in distressful, so that's how Kripanam was specified by the son of Marichi in suitable words. So why Viduraji is called as hero? An indication has been given. Vishnu Chakravarti writes, because Vidurji would not have given up to the whims to his wife, but Kashyapa Muni gave in. He gave in, like that is being described here. So Prabhupada writes, Kashyapa could have refused her with a strong words expressing impossibility. Strong words means chastisement. You know, you can't reason that time. You cannot justify a person. It just doesn't work. The moment you begin to justify and reason, the tears will begin to roll. And you begin to justify, the howling sound will come. And then you again justify, then the crashing sound on the ground will happen. You know, the KK, she was on the ground, and you justify, then the thumping sound, you know, like these emotions are described. This is how it goes on. So strong expression, you have to cut it. You have to cut it that time. It has to be strong, straightforward, not harsh. I'm not meaning harsh, but a chastisement like that. But because he was not as spiritually strong as Vidura, Viduraji is addressed here as hero. Where no one is stronger in self-control than a devotee of the Lord. It appears Kashyapa was already inclined to have sexual enjoyment with his wife, and because a not strong man, he tried to dissuade her only with pacifying. That's what. No pacifying, no justification, no reasoning at that point. It doesn't work. 17. And Kashyapa Muni speaks pacifying words. So Diti glorified Kashyapa. Now Kashyapa glorifies his wife Diti. I mean, this is not what you have a discussion. So that is what is being mentioned here. And he began to glorify. And he said, "Oh, afflicted one," which means I acknowledge your pain. I shall forthwith gratify whatever desire dear to you. For who else but you is the source of the three perfections of liberation? Dharma, Artha, Kama. That is what he's saying. Dharma, Artha, Kama is fulfilled by the cooperation of the partner. The Dharma, Artha, Kama. Like that is being spoken about. Prabhupada writes about the duty of a wife in the purport. You can read later on. Text number 18. As one can cross over the ocean with the sea-going vessels, which means ships, one can cross the dangerous situation of the material ocean by living with a wife. So again, a very important purport talks about the importance of Grihastha ashram. We see that later in the Puranjana story. Also, the wife acts as a fortress for a king, which refers to a man, preventing any enemy to enter. What enemy? Lust is one of the greatest enemy, found entering and devouring the man. That's how it is mentioned. Text number 19. Oh, respectful one, a wife is so helpful that she is called the better half of a man's body because of her sharing in all auspicious activities. A man can move without anxiety and trusting all responsibilities to his wife. They're very important purpose. This would take a dedicated time to really pay attention to this theme. I'm not focusing on this theme. I'm focusing on the theme of attachment. Here is the importance of Grihastha ashram and how Grihastha ashram should be lived. It's been taught what's the responsibility of wife. So I'm not getting to that subject here right now. Text number 20. As a fort commander very easily conquers the invading plunderers, by taking shelter of a wife, one can conquer the censors which are unconquerable in other social orders. Once again, the aim of marriage, who should get married, and importance of having a faithful wife. Please mark for yourself reading these important verses. Anyways, you have to read it later on about Grihastha ashram. Text number 21. O queen of the home. I mean, if you speak like this, do you think the person will say, yes, master, I understood. Very inappropriate time. I'll go. When you already tempered, glorified, you strengthen the argument. So he's saying, oh, queen of the home, we are not able to act like you, nor could we repay you for what you have done, even if you worked for our entire life or even after death. To repay you is not possible, even for those who are admirers of personal qualities. Therefore, Prabhupada said, strong words were needed, not the words of praise like this. So, okay, I can read 1 or 2 lines for the puppet. Interesting purpose. Reading the last 4 lines of the puppet. Not all husbands are as able to appreciate the good qualities of their wives. So maybe these verses can be shared with the husbands. But even though one is able to appreciate these qualities, it is still not possible to repay the debt to the wife. Such extraordinary praises by a husband for his wife are certainly in the mode of joking. All right, Papa saying he's joking, huh? He's not meaning that. Anyway, text number 22. Even though it is not possible to repay you, I shall satisfy your desire immediately for the sake of begetting children, but you must wait for only a few seconds so that others may not reproach me. So, what was that issue? This twilight time is a time of Shiva and his Bhuta Ganas to roam around. So, that's the time generally Sandhya Vandan or religious activities are performed. And it is mentioned if in case at that point of time any activity such as union or any different activities, sleeping, we can say ahar nidra bhai maithuna in one way, not ahar as per se, sleeping, any kind of wrong activities are performed at that point of time, the ghost enters into the living entity. So because this activity was performed, although between the great personalities like Kashyapa and Diti, the time was inappropriate. Therefore, the demonic soul entered into the body of Diti. And that's what Kashyapa was saying. The time is not appropriate. Twilight time is about to get over. Just wait for some moment. Like this, he's saying, I'm going to fulfill. Like this. And Prabhupada said, the hand-plucked husband may not be able to repay his wife for all the benefits that he derives from her, but as for begetting children by fulfilling desire, it is not at all difficult for any husband unless it is thoroughly important. Anyways, text number 23. This particular time is most inauspicious because at this time the horrible looking ghosts and constant companions of the Lord of the ghost are visible, which means Shiva. Text number 24. Lord Shiva, the king of the ghosts, sitting on the back of his bull carrier, travels at this time, accompanied by ghosts who follow him for their welfare. Hare Krishna. So, just looking at. Somebody would like to read puppet? Ravi Prabhu? Go ahead and read the puppet. Lord Shiva or Rudra. You got to unmute yourself, please. Unmute kindly.
Hare Krishna,
Yes,
Prabhuji.
now begin to speak. Please
Okay.
read.
Lord Shiva or Rudra is the king of the ghosts. Ghostly characters worship Lord Shiva to be gradually guided toward a path of self-realization. Mayavadi philosophers are mostly worshippers of Lord Shiva, and Sripad Shankaracharya is considered to be the incarnation of Lord Shiva for preaching godlessness to the Mayavadi philosophers. Ghosts are bereft of a physical body because of their grievously sinful acts such as suicide. The last resort of the ghostly characters in human society is to take shelter of suicide, either material or spiritual. Material suicide causes loss of the physical body, and spiritual suicide causes loss of the individual identity. Mayavadi philosophers desire to lose their individuality and merge into the impersonal spiritual Brahmajyoti existence. Lord Shiva, being very kind to the ghosts, sees that although they are condemned, they get physical bodies. He places them into the wombs of women who indulge in sexual intercourse regardless of the restrictions on time and circumstance. Kashyap wanted to impress this fact upon Diti so that she might wait for a while.
So very interesting purport. Prabhupada is mentioning Lord Shiva is the worshipable deity of ghost. The ghost, who are the ghosts? Who commit suicide. What kind of suicide? One is physical suicide, you become ghost, and one is spiritual suicide, which is Mayavadis. And they all worship Shiva. Yes or no? That's the point. Text number 25. Lord Shiva's body is reddish and he's unstained, but he's covered with ashes. His hair is just from the whirlwind dust of the burning crematorium. He is the younger brother of your husband and he sees with 3 eyes. So from verses 25 to 29, Kashyapuni describes the glories of Lord Shiva just to resist Diti, wait for some more time. In other words, Srila Vishnu Chakra Thakur says he was trying, just by being talkative, he was trying to distract Diti for some time so that the time can pass away and inauspicious time can go away. So he was just being talkative here for that sake, like that has been described here. So Kashyapa took Lord Shiva as his younger brother because the younger sister of Diti, that is Sati, was married to Shiva, like this. So why it is mentioned 3 eyes, which means Lord Shiva has 3 eyes. 2 eyes will see things, and third eye can see anywhere. Even if you think we can go in hidden, we can still be seen by Lord Shiva. That is called as the sun, moon, and fire. One cannot escape the vigilance of Lord Shiva, like this. So the time, because we will act in a forbidden time, will be noted by Lord Shiva. And then Diti would meet with a proper punishment by giving birth to a child of ghostly character, like this, or a godless impersonalist. Kashyapa foresaw this, and thus he warned his wife Diti. Text 26. Lord Shiva regards no one as a relative. So Diti, don't say, if Diti gives an argument, Are, but मेरे जीजा जी हैं, इतना तो consideration देंगे. They say, no, Lord Shiva considers nobody as a relative. Yet there is no one who is not connected with him. He does not regard anyone as favorable, abominable. We respectfully worship the remnants of his foodstuff, and we vow to accept what is rejected by him. Text 27. Although no one in the material world is equal to or greater than Lord Shiva, although his unimpeachable character is followed by great souls who dismantle the walls, mass omniscience, he nevertheless remains as if a devil to give salvation to all devotees of the Lord. In other words, he takes a tough position, guiding the ghosts and hobgoblins, becoming their Ishta, just to guide them eventually to attain salvation. Unfortunately, foolish person, not knowing that he is engaged in his own self, laugh at him. Such foolish person engaged in maintaining the body which is eatable by dogs, with dresses, ornaments, garlands, and ointments. So Prabhupada in the purport is actually talking about the false followers of Lord Shiva. Like that, in few verses, the glories of Lord Shiva are being described by Kashyamuni. For what reason? Let the time pass. Let the time pass. Text number 29. Demigods like Brahma also follow religion, rites observed by him. He is the controller of the material energy, which causes the creation of the material world. He is great, and therefore his devilish characteristics are simply imitation of Lord Shiva. Because his look is devilish. He has a necklace, a garland of skulls. He has snakes on his neck. That looks like devilish. And these are just simply imitation, not actual personality of Lord Shiva. Now, text number 30. Maitreya began to speak. Diti was thus informed by her husband, but she was pressed by Cupid. She caught hold of clothing of the great Brahmana sage, just like a shameless public prostitute. Understanding his wife's purpose, he was obliged to perform the forbidden acts. And thus, after offering his obeisances unto worshipable feet, he lay with her in a secluded place. Purport. It appears from the talk of Kashyapa with his wife that he was a worshipper of Lord Shiva, not Vishnu. So Prabhupada is making a point, Acharyas is making a point, because he said, we accept the remnants of Lord Shiva. So the devotees of Krishna, they have a perfect control on their senses. No way they would have given it. Therefore, Vidura was addressed as, O hero. He is a devotee of Lord Vishnu or Krishna. Here it is said, it appears Kashyapa was a devotee of Lord Shiva. Although he knew Lord Shiva would not be pleased, he was obliged to act, and thus he offered his obeisances unto fate. He gave in, he couldn't control. And why he couldn't control his senses? Because senses are ultimately controlled by Rishi Kesha, Rishi Kena, Sevana Bhakti Richate. Who is the master of senses? The Lord. So only that Lord can control the senses. Text number 32. Thereafter, the Brahmana took his bath in the water, controlled his speech by practicing trance, meditating the eternal effulgence, and chanting the holy Gayatri hymns within his mouth. So the glories of chanting have been described here. So from verses 32 to 36, now Kashyapa repents for the act. So they have performed the act of union. Now after that, Kashyapa repents, and Diti have come into her senses. The nature of lust, once it is exhausted, then you regret. And if you have a regret, then you understand the thing which you started with itself was wrong. I repeat my points. If in case after fulfilling that desire, how much ever you thought it was a spiritual desire, if in case you end up with a regret, so you should understand that your starting journey itself was wrong. It's a very subtle line to understand what is right, what is wrong. So we should not function on the platform of attachment. I want this, I will have it. This is the stages of Varna. Dhyayato Vishyan Pumsa Sangastesu Upajayate. So now Diti also, that lust which was building within her is exhausted. And she's like, oh, what did I do? I could have waited for some time. So now that is what is described. Text number 33. O son of the Bharat family, Diti after this went near to her husband, her face lowered because of a faulty action. She spoke as follows, and now Diti repents. Diturvacha name garbam imam brahman bhutanam rishabho vadit rudrapatir he bhutana yasya karvam amhasam. The beautiful Diti said, my dear Brahmana, kindly see that my embryo is not killed by Lord Shiva, the Lord of all living entities, because the great offense I have committed against Lord Shiva. Because Lord Shiva is also known as Ashutosh, therefore she requested her husband to help her in pacifying Lord Shiva. For her husband was a great devotee of Lord Shiva. So she now understands that Shiva would have become upset with her for this. Text number 35. Let me offer my obeisances unto the angry Lord Shiva, who is simultaneously the very ferocious great demigod, Rudra, and fulfiller of material desire, Ashutosh. He is all auspicious and forgiving, but his anger can immediately move him to chastise. So Diti prayed for Lord Shiva's mercy very cleverly. She prayed. What did she pray? Ravi Prabhu, पढ़ो पढ़पट में क्या लिखा हुआ है? 35th verse purport. She prayed.
She
The Lord.
Diti, yep. Text number 35. Diti prayed for the mercy of Lord Shiva very cleverly. She prayed, the Lord can cause me to cry, but if he likes, he can also stop my crying because he is Ashutosh. He is so great that if he likes, he can immediately destroy my pregnancy. But by his mercy, he can also fulfill my desire that my pregnancy not be spoiled. Because he is all auspicious, it is not difficult for him to excuse me from being punished. Although he is now ready to punish me, because I have moved his great anger, he appears like a man, but he is the Lord of all men.
36. Please read the translation.
Text 36 translation. Let him be pleased with us, since he is my brother-in-law, the husband of my sister Sati. He is also worshipable Lord of all women. He is the personality of all opulences and can show mercy towards women who are excused even by the uncivilized hunters.
The Prabhupada is saying by this prayer, she is trying to indicate that Lord Shiva himself associated with the woman, with my sister. So he knows that the defective nature. So he might not take my act, this attachment and the mistake occurred because of that very seriously, like that. Text number 37. So again, the faulty nature, please understand, the woman class is not being criticized here. The faulty nature is because of the strong emotional side. And please understand that strong emotional side is actually a blessing, is not a fault. Because of the strong emotional side, the mothers can be mothers and take care of the kids. The father cannot take care of the child as much as the mother can do it. The only issue is if that attachment and that emotion becomes a sense of driven by lust, because of one's own desires, that's where it becomes dangerous. And that's what happened in the case of Diti. Otherwise, it is a strength, should be valued. Therefore, in our culture and tradition, motherhood is worshipped. And motherhood is represented by Lakshmi, Sita, Durga, and we have Navaratri for that. So don't think and read these words in a way the scriptures are criticizing womanhood over men. It's not like that. It's an emotional side. And because of having a wrong attachment, the consequences. 37 translation, go ahead.
Maitreya said, the great sage Kashyap thus addressed his wife, who was trembling because of fear that her husband was offended. She understood that he had been dissuaded from his daily duties of offering evening prayers, yet she desired the welfare of her children in the world.
So now Kashyapa begins to speak. He said, well, you didn't hear to me because of your mind being polluted, because of defilement of a particular time, and because of disobedience to my directions, and because of your apathy towards devatas, everything was inauspicious. Again, a very fantastic purport. These all cannot be covered in a 1 hour overview class. Prabhupada talks about the science of good progeny. So please read it at leisure yourself. Maybe in our Bhakti Vedanta, we'll discuss all this subject matter in details. Text number 39. Oh, arrogant lady, you will have 2 contemptuous sons born. which means envious, hateful. Born of your condemned womb, unlucky woman, they'll cause constant lamentation to all the three worlds. Now is a discussion about in what situation a bad progeny is born. In what situation you have a good child born, and what situation bad child born. Very important. Therefore, okay, I don't have time, but just to give you one or two clues here. Therefore, Prabhupada said, before you go and perform an act of union, we should chant how many rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra? 50 minimum. 50 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Like this. It's just to drive away the lust and bring forward the act of service. We are uniting together with an act of service, with the purpose of service to bring forward a good soul. Therefore, in traditions in the past, before marriage, the husband and wife would perform tapasya. Primarily, the husband will go and perform tapasya. You read about it. Anyone and everyone will perform tapasya. And you can say in today's context, it is after marriage. They're told to live together for some time, strengthen their sadhana and everything. And then gradually, once you're ready, once your mind is calm and composed over the period of time, then you come forward for the action. So these are the subject matter of Grasta counseling. I'm just giving you some clues here like that. Fine. The bad progeny. Text number 40. You will have such a bad sons, they'll kill poor, faultless living entities. They'll torture women, and they would enrage the great souls. Now, Diti was not disturbed as much as by anything, as much she became disturbed by hearing, they would enrage great souls. Because there is no greater aparad, or you can call it even sin, as offending great Vaishnavas. This is the death knell, if you want to talk about it, the most fierce. I'll speak on the subject matter at details when we talk about the 6th verse of NY, Dashte Svabhava Janate Vapuchasta Dosha. We'll talk about it. That time we'll take it in details, what it means, why. And you see, Diti became extremely afraid. Oh, she's not afraid of they're going to kill. She's not afraid they're going to touch a woman. She's afraid, oh, they're going to offend Vaishnavas, great Brahmanas. Wow, she was so afraid because of that. Text number 41. You can read the purpose, what it is yourself. At that time, the Lord of the universe, the Supreme Person, Godhead, who is the well-wisher of all living entities, will descend and kill them, just as Indra smashes the mountains with his thunderbolts. Oh, really? Diti, at this point in time, was really afraid. When she heard the Lord will come and kill, Diti was relaxed. Thank God. Why was she relaxed? We'll see. Text number 42. Now, Diti said, it is very good that my sons will be magnanimously killed by the arms of Supreme Personality of Godhead. With this Sudarshan weapon, O my husband, may they never be killed by the wrath of the Brahmana devotees. Why? If they are killed by the curse of a Brahmana or a Vaishnava, even the people, sinful people residing in hellish planet, would not give them entry there. They will have such a people would have space nowhere in this creation. So Diti, although the kids have not been born, look at her care for herself. Let them be killed by the God, Krishna. Because at least they're killed by Krishna, they'll attain moksha. They'll go back. And then I'll be the proud mother like that. So that's what she's saying about it. 43. A person is condemned by a Brahmana or is always fearful to other living and is not favored either by those who are already in hell or by those in the species in which he is born. Text number 44 of 45. The learned Kashyapa said, because of your lamentation and penance and proper deliberation, and also because of your unflinching faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, your adoration for Lord Shiva and for me, one of the sons of Hiranyakashipu would be a pure devotee of the Lord by the name of Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj, he will be an approved devotee of the Lord, and his fame will broadcast equally with that of the personality of Godhead. And now, 46 verse onwards, Kashyapa Muni begins to glorify Prahlad Maharaj. Yogeremeva durvarnam bhavashyanti sadhavaha nirvairadibhiratmanam yachalam anuvartitam. In order to follow in his footsteps, saintly person will try to emulate his character by practicing freedom from animosity, just as the purifying process rectifies gold of inferior quality. 47. Yat prasadadimam vishwam prasidati yat atmakam sasvadrag bhagavan yasya toshyati ananya yadrasha. Everyone will be pleased with him, because the personality of Godhead is always satisfied with the devotee who does not wish for anything beyond him. Savai Mahabhagavato Mahatma Mahanubhavo Mahata Mahishataha Pravatta Bhaktya Yanubhavitashaye Nivesha Vaikuntam Imam Vihasyati. This topmost devotee Lord will have expanded intelligence and expanded influence, will be the greatest of the great souls due to mature devotion service. He will certainly be situated in transcendental ecstasy and will enter the spiritual sky after quitting this material world. Alam patashil dharo gunakaro prishta parathya vetito dukhiteshu abhuta shatru jagata shokaharta naida kilam tapamivo durajaha. He will be a virtuously qualified reservoir of all good qualities. He will be jolly, happy in others' happiness, distressed to see others' distress. He will have no enemies. He will be a destroyer of the lamentation of all the universes, like the pleasant moon after the summer sun. Oh, did Kashyapa Muni made a mistake? He said Prahlad Maharaj would not have enemy, and his own father became the greatest enemy. How do you justify that? Yes, Kashyapa Muni was good, was right in forecasting Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha's birth. He was right in forecasting one of the sons of Hiranyakashipu will be Prahlad. He was right in justifying and explaining about all the good qualities of Prahlad. But now he said Prahlad would have no enemies. But his father became his greatest enemy. What does it mean? Food for thought.
Can I say, Prabhuji?
Well, we'll finish this chapter, and then with time permits, we'll think about it. It's just food for thought for all of you. Text number 50. Your grandson will be able to see inside and outside the Supreme Personality Godhead, whose wife is the beautiful goddess of fortune. That's how we say, na? What is that? Yato yato yami tato nasima bahe nasima hidaye nasima nasimha madim sharanam prapatai. That's the point here. You'll be able to see outside, inside, everywhere. The Lord can assume the form desired by the devotee, and his face is always beautifully decorated with earrings. Text number 51, coming to the last verse. Maitravacha Shutva Bhagavatam Pautram Amudata Brasham Putrayoscha Krishna Vidadvasan Mahamanaha. The sage Maitra said, hearing that her grandson would be a great devotee and that her sons would be killed by Krishna, Diti was highly pleased in mind. Interesting. Amazing, huh? Two things. One, thank God, these two rascals will not be cursed to death. They'll be killed by Krishna, which means, being killed by Krishna is not an ordinary thing. Therefore, next chapter, Vidurji asked, what did they do in their past life that they got the benediction to be killed by Krishna? Which means they have to be the eternal entourage of the Lord. No ordinary person, Krishna will not pick any ordinary person to fight with him or to kill him. That's how the next chapter begins. She was very pleased knowing that, yes, which means they are great personalities. Therefore, Lord will come to kill them. And what else can she ask for? Her grandson will become the pure devotee of the Lord. And she is already rejoicing how her fame will spread all over the world as the grandmother of the famous Prahlad Maharaj. Like this is being described. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purpose of the third canto, 14th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Pregnancy of the Diti in the Evening. So, you please read the purports. A very profound subject matter has been discussed in the chapter. We just kind of did some little bit justice. And now we'll cover another beautiful chapter, discussion of the kingdom of God. That will go a little slowly. I would like to go a little bit more details over there in 15th chapter. With that, we conclude here for today. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki. And we went a little too overboard. We are 30 minutes beyond our scheduled time. Just to again conclude, a very, very important teaching or lesson, which is from this pastime. Even the great Diti and the great Kashyapa Muni performed an act which they knew is sinful. If you knew which is sinful, how can you do that when you're such a great personality? Even a great personality can do that. Then what's the hope for us? The first mistake is living a life based on attachments. Attachments or being attached is a weakness arising because of emotions, So being sentimental and all that. So that's what happened with Diti. Dhyayato Vishyan Pumsa. She was completely captured by her mind. Chanchalami Mana Krishna Pravati Ballavat Dhadam. Became so determined that she was willing to break the boundaries of all etiquettes and shyness and whatnot, like this. How do you handle attachments when a person becomes attached? Because he's bent on getting the desire fulfilled. Strong words have to be spoken as a chastisement, not harsh, but strong words. Whereas Kashyapa failed to do so, therefore Maitreya Muni called Vidura, O hero, not Kashyapa Muni. Rather, Kashyapa Muni tried reasoning with her, justifying, glorified her, and pampered her like that. He thought, let me be talkative, talk to her, and let the time pass away. But he couldn't, and he gave in. And another thing was, Kashyapa Muni appeared to be a devotee of Lord Shiva like this. A great personality, knowing very well, not an auspicious time, still the thing happened. So the problem arises, or the greatest fault is raga, attachment. Sangaste supajayate. And this is often seen in a teacher-student relationship also, and any relationship will see that. That's the point here. So when it is said no, it could be hurting. It is just hurting because you're attached. If you are not attached, why would it hurt? And second thing, how do you know that you started from a wrong place itself? If after doing the act, you regret. Just like this is regretting. So which means whatever reasoning you were giving, how justified, how scientific, how spiritual it was all wrong. It was not correct. So the responsibility of a leader or a teacher, or in other words, in true sense, a teacher or leader could be one who lives his life based on Guru Sadhu Shastra, who does not get carried away by the whims and the demands of his or her followers or students. Just like Kashyapa Muni got carried away by the demands of Diti. Imagine if you start getting carried away by the demands of followers and the students, what life would you have? Just nothing happens. So a strong decision, that's what Prabhu said, a strong decision has to be made. So Hare Krishna. So we'll conclude here. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Okay, there seems to be one hand up for a question. Yes, please go ahead. The Medavni had a question. She's around.
Yes,
I'm stopping the live stream.